What you're going to watch is the second part of the video, one of two that I titled To Die, Crossover, and Return. And basically, the footage in this particular video pertains to Don Piper, who's a pastor who almost died, and you'll hear his story. But I wanted to touch on a couple of things because a lot of people because they beg the question in this video, why do some people go all the way to heaven and not come back? Why do some people get a glimpse of it and then God sends them back? You know, these are all questions that, you know, people have wondered for, you know, since the inception of the ability to conceptualize the fact that there's heaven. And the first thing is he talks in the beginning about, he calls it a sensory explosion. And that's kind of how, for me, when I was on Facebook saying the colors were so vivid where I was in these gardens and in these different places that you just wanted to eat color. I mean, there is no drug that can do to you anything more than an out-of-body experience. There's absolutely no way to hit that high. There absolutely is just no way to hit that high. So, you know, that's kind of a cool thing for people that like to get high. But he also referred to, Don Piper talks about this gate and how it was surprisingly narrow. Now, he talks about being met at the gate by his family or his grandpa or somebody like that. In my particular situation, I was just there. All of a sudden I'm on this gold path and Jesus comes walking towards me. We go over to Mother Teresa, and then it was this long path with all this beautiful kind of Wonka looking thing, I guess. You know, it was just this amazing journey and meeting a lot of people. And you know, in the videos people talk about how they were brought back or they came back. And for me, and I can actually just cry when I talk about it because heaven is just so amazing that I didn't want to, you know, come home. I mean, I didn't want to come back here. I wanted to go home to heaven. And I've shared this in my videos before, but Jesus and I, towards the end of the journey when they were bringing me out of the coma, he held out his hand. And I went to run to grab it. And he held up his other hand and he said, "Stop." And I stopped, and he said, if you come with me, you have to leave him behind. And I turned around, and it was my son, because I was in my coma when I had my baby. And I had actually the power to make the decision of whether or not I wanted to go with JC or come back to Earth. And the only reason that I'm even making this video is because Christopher was the driving factor for me to come back. So anyway, without further ado, here's the rest of the documentary, the mini documentary. Thanks a lot.
The music was beyond spectacular. I'm listening to the Wings of Angels. I'm smelling aromas there I've never smelled here. Heaven is a kind of a sensory explosion.
Mm-hmm.
The buffet that is heaven, of sight, sound, touch, aroma, everything was just magnificent.
Do you think that you went to heaven by going upward right past the girders here?
Yeah, I think so. I think heaven is up.
Don Piper crossed over the line from this place we know to the other side.
It was such a horrific crash and such an instantaneous death.
There are some people that describe the afterlife in a familiar way, a bright white place of angels. Pastor Don Piper says he experienced that place firsthand after a terrible accident. On this bridge in rural Texas in January 1989, a truck plowed into Don Piper's car head-on, crushing many of his bones and cutting his legs in two.
And when he came around this way, on this side of the bridge, we're talking about 110 miles an hour of impact, my 45, his 65, right here. The steering wheel impaled me on the chest, and then the car's roof collapsed on my head, so there's just no way he could have survived this accident.
He says his heart stopped pumping, that he had no pulse for an hour and a half, that paramedics on the scene declared him dead.
I didn't bleed out because my heart was not beating anymore. I just died.
What death was like for Don Piper is at the heart of his story.
I took my last breath here in the car, and I took my first breath there at the gates. Lights reflecting off the gate, and it makes it look like it's pulsating with life. And that's because in heaven there is no artificial life. God illuminates it with His glory. So I'm looking at this magnificent gate that's quite ornate and very elaborate, but has a small entrance by comparison. And standing in front of the gate are dozens of people that I had known in life who had preceded me in death, including my grandfather. I was heartbroken when he died. Now I'm at the gates of heaven. He's the first person to greet me. And I'm looking at him, and I know where I'm at because I know where he is at. And he's reaching out to me with hands that were missing fingers here on earth. And, he was wrinkled, and he's just magnificent. He's reaching out to me and saying, "Welcome home, Donnie."
But how do you know that wasn't just a dream?
It was the most real thing that ever happened to me. And if I was having a dream about it, this wouldn't be it. Some of these people who met me at the gates, I hadn't thought of in decades. I'm crossing in, and suddenly it all stopped.
It was as though I was compelled to stop and to pray for him.
Dick Oneraker and his wife Anita were in a car not far behind Piper on the road. When they pulled up, they were told the man in the wreckage was dead. Dick prayed over Don Piper anyway. He gave an interview about it before his own death in 1996.
The Lord just impressed on me very emphatically, very urgently, that I was to pray for him.
And at that point, I want to say, what's going on? I mean, I just got here, and before I could even enunciate those words, I hear, "What a friend we have in Jesus."
What a friend we have in Jesus, all our sins and griefs to bear, all because we do not carry everything to God in prayer.
Anita recalled the song her husband sang.
I began to sing, and all of a sudden I heard him singing with me.
And he's singing, and I'm singing, and I'm thinking to myself, what happened here?
Don Piper was alive, tattered.
And I'm going to have to live with that.
Why is it that you and I both went to this line and bounced back, or others that we know kept going through that line and never came back?
That is a great question, and I dealt with it. I was laying there in the hospital bed for 13 months. Why me? Why did you send me back?
Exactly.
He was sent back, he believes, to spread a special message, one that has become a frequent subject of his sermons.
Heaven is a real place, and you can really go there. But you can live a meaningful life between now and then.
It took Don Piper years before speaking about what happened to him.
The thing that really burdened me the most during my long recovery period is that I had been to heaven and not told anyone about it. Because I didn't really think I should. I considered it a sacred secret. It's so personal. It's so real. It's even so difficult to talk about sometimes. Really talk about. Because it's so emotional. You dare not speak of it. That's why I refer to it as a sacred secret.
So why do you do it?
Well, because it matters. It matters to others to know that heaven is a real place and you can really go there. And that if you had a really tragic experience in your life, you can overcome it. Thank you for being here, sir.